most mezcal today in the U.S. market, which is the number one market for it outside of Mexico, is being consumed in cocktails, which is really kind of, this connective tissue in terms of how we met and what Danny was doing with mezcal as far as like craft cocktailing and making, a very simple cheat code is anything that you make with tequila, you can make with mezcal to like a cheat code, right? There's very surface, but you can make some really cool drinks with it, but you have to have the knowledge of what you're doing. You can, some people make some killer mezcal Negronis, which is not what you might get at a typical restaurant that might want to make a mezcal margarita just because they're substituting. And most people would go as far as calling it a smoky one because that's the adjective that usually gets used with mezcal is that it's smoky. There's a lot more to it than that. But yeah, the way it's roasted or cooked, the agave is underground by virtue of smoke really. And so there are some smoky notes to it, but it shouldn't be like the dominant component of it.
Now I know what competition Danny won in San Francisco. Which I wasn't sure before. I thought maybe it was wrestling or something.
It was actually,
it was in Oakland.
Oh, I'm sorry, in Oakland. Yeah.
It was actually a charity event. So they do this thing called Barrio, and then it'll
Can
go.
I just drink this?
Yeah.
Wait, should I look for something? If I were like, for example, like if my only experience, I do a shit ton of wine tasting, right? And I'm very, very, I want to dive into like the making, not only of but important more, I guess before that, when I go, I want to hear like, what is it that I should be expecting or what would I potentially expect in terms of notes or anything like that?
So it's all over the board, just like wine. But I can just
that really speaks for itself, though. I just had a taste. Wow.
But I mean, you're gonna get I don't know citrus notes, especially with this expression, floral notes, a back finish of smoky.
Well, and just like anything else, I mean, the first sip's always going to be hot, and you're going to get one certain type of profile, and then the second, and then usually by the third, your palate's kind of warmed up a little bit, and then it's really going to start opening up for you, and you'll kind of experience a different thing from the first sip to the third. So, when you see a lot of people get some of these things and they shoot it right away, you're kind of like, well, you just kind of like miss the whole point of it because you're getting one thing. And I think that's why some people just don't even like particular spirits in particular. Well, because they'll just chug it and then.
Well,
that's fun.
Yeah, the bouquet reminds me of being on the floor of the bathroom in my 20s.
For sure.
From the moment it touches your tongue until after.
The taste is amazing, though. It's way more interesting than I'm used to. The Corvo Silver.
100%.
Sorry, I have to show my ignorance. That's it.
No, that's fine. Good tequila exists for sure, and they're gonna have different notes as well within like the smaller batch tequilas and. I mean, maybe what I would call slower processed tequilas, like in terms of how they're cooked and stuff like that. But mezcal is just, it's so many more layers to it. And the reality is even this label, or I don't know what batch that says it is or what lote. It says it on the white side, the white
18.
part of the label. 18.
18, yeah.
So 19 and 20 will probably taste different than this. Just, which is a cool part of it, right? Like and what's fun about it,
I think. Is that the year, or is that just coincidental that it?
No, it's just a batch. It's a batch.
Right.
So the way it works is that we have to keep track every batch, like very specifically what our processes were, in terms of like how much weight piñas were, like the agaves.
Like a vintage of wine.
Yeah. It's no different.
For sure.
So each one being it, but there are some uniform flavors with our black expression. Our black label, this cuprieta, and then maybe even with those, but they're always slightly different, including the alcohol. I think the alcohol in this is like 47, maybe. Let's say.
40, I'll tell you what, though, the
46. The next one would be 48.
The fire, the wood,
I feel like I'm sitting in my backyard with in my fire pit.
But it's even kind of mellow. I mean, some of them can be a lot more prominent, and with these ones, like it's not. Or I think as soon as like if you start drinking mezcal a little bit more, I found the smoke doesn't seem like the first thing that enters, like you are picking up all these different flavors.
For sure.
Dude, what have I been doing?
That seems like the last part.
Like Cuervo 1800
for sure.
When we stepped out.
Like here you get it on the finish for sure. Like it's there, but you're getting so many different notes from beginning to end. And
yeah.
So for you, Danny, was like before you met Sal, was mezcal a passion for you in general, or it just happens to be because obviously you're in the industry and mezcal is not the only part of of what you focus on. But
I mean, I think just with like a lot of people, I mean, having it come around a lot more. I mean, you didn't really see that many expressions. You just saw Del Maguey, the green bottles, you know, and you start drinking those. Like Chichicapa was probably like the first one I ever drank. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I've always loved tequila. So agave spirits have always just kind of been my jam. Rum makes me weird. The pirates, you know, whiskey. I appreciate good whiskeys, but whiskey's not like, so, I don't know.
Oh my God. The most amazing Colombian on the planet right there. That woman. Look at that little baby.
Oh, is that Jules?
Oh my God.
Nuggets.
Love her. Oh my God. She's so cute. Right. Sorry.
But
so way to get off track.
No, I mean,
as usual.
But just kind of, you know, getting into it a little bit more and more, over the years, especially, you know, when the craft cocktail movement started going and, you know, of a sudden.
If you were to say when that started, like, again, my radar is a little bit different, a little skewed. It feels like to me that's a very recent-ish
I think
thing in terms of the.
I think a bigger boom was around 2007. I think when I made my first, what I would consider like craft cocktail was in like 2004. So I was working at Monty's Rotisserie up in Santa Rosa and,
Montgomery Village. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was the first place. And like talking to some of the people that were there, I mean, it was such a great family and, you know, I mean, it was even the first time I ever had Fernet in my life, Bronca and, but yeah, working with some of the other people and getting to learn and be like, no, let's do all these things. And then it was like, boom. So I made this cocktail called the Naked Lady. After the flower, of course. But it was a hit. And
of course.
And I think that was the day that I kind of realized like, fuck, I'm going to be a bartender, you know?
Yeah, but it's interesting that you say that because sometimes I feel like maybe there's a negative connotation to that. I don't feel it's that way anymore. I used to geek out like this. I've got some friends who are winemakers as well. That to me, anybody who's creating, whether you're creating it at this level or you're creating it, you know, after the fact and you're making an experience around it, that's the fascinating part to me. It's like, you guys are artists, basically.
Sure. But, you know, like when I started over 20 years ago, I mean, it was still kind of at the end of the garbage era, you know, and you're just making.
What does that mean?
Just like sweet and sour mix, you know, Midori, Malibu, you know, like you had all those kind of like flavors and brands and, you know, basically like disco drinks.
That's horrible.
Kind of like fast food,
drinks.
Cosmopolitan.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
That was my 20s.
Was that a thing for you?
Disco
drinks?
No. Disco drinks. Come on, Sal.
No. You know, like Midori sours, throw up in my mouth. You know, shit like that. So it's been kind of fun from like knowing that existed and then coming into a place where we are now where
it's kind of like
goes
craft
now.
Brewing too. It went through kind of that same period where everybody was drinking like Coors and Budweiser and Corona and
Miller High
Piss.
I was going to say, you still drink that shit.
And then, and now it's so much more diverse, you know.
For sure.
And awesome too.
And it just keeps expanding and, you know, we kind of see where it goes. But, you know, initially I thought I was going to be an artist and like go to art school and draw and illustrate and write children's books.
But how cool, you can do both.
Like, for sure.
Together. It's like, for example, I don't know, maybe I listened to one of your podcasts where you didn't draw the Agave Roast illustration.
No, that was Cora.
Okay.
Yeah.
She drew that?
She drew that, yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's beautiful.
So, she's an amazing artist. Like you go to her house and like paintings are just ridiculous and yeah, she's super talented.
Who's that?
She's Cora Tang. She works for El Silencio Mezcal.
Oh, gotcha.
So, yeah.
I have a bottle of Silencio in my office.
Of mezcal?
Yeah.
Oh,
wait,
just sitting there. A friend of mine. No, but a friend of mine gave it to me, and it just sat there ever since.
Oh.
Why?
Yeah. Well, now you can have a bottle of Luna, and now you can.
That's so funny. Silencio. It's literally the only thing other than.
That's funny.
Yeah.
The garbage that you usually drink?
Yeah, he used to be a salesman for Southern Wine.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, they're a Southern product. Yeah.
So you came up looking for Danny at Mario and John's, but not really knowing who Danny was. What was your intention? You were like, "Hey, dude, I want you to be my ambassador." Because
not at first at all. And it happened really organically. I think that the way that this happened was really cool. This has happened a lot with their company, and I think in my life. But like, you know, I'm big on relationships and starting them and forging them, and you know, quickly I could tell that we were going to get along and be cool. And when we went to Mexico, because he was already going to be on that trip. It kind of happened naturally. Like the big thing with this industry is you could get fed a lot of garbage, right? Like as far as where Danny stands, like when he was buying spirits, you know, it's a salesperson's job to sell, and sometimes they're selling, you know, some bullshit, and then sometimes they're selling reality, or
they're making more money off of the bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. And so they're incentivized for the wrong reasons. And so how do you know, weed through reality, right? And Danny went, and I remember he told me, like, dude, like, this is real. Like, you know, and that's not always true. I think that you could always go make those trips and come away thinking, it wasn't as impressive as I thought, or that was bullshit. He said this and I saw this. And so that was kind of step one into me being like the one thing we always going to want is someone that really believes in what we're doing, really has felt it, understood it, touched it, drank it. And then, you know, that happened. And then, one thing led to the other, and we sat down and we talked about it, and, you know, he joined the squad, and, you know, we haven't looked back, right? Like it's been awesome, but it happened organically. It happened a guy we just hired that works in SoCal. His name's Ryan, and he's from Napa. And I met Ryan in Morelia, Michoacan, which is weird. Like we
right next to each other. Yeah, closer here.
And we met there, and then, you know, same thing kind of happened organically. He went to Mexico, and he had already gone once to Morelia, and then he went again on the trip where Danny was at. And, you know, he came back, like, you know, he has his own goals to represent his home state of Mexico. But, nevertheless, he was like, I'd love to work with Puente. And so, and, you know, since then, same thing. It was cool. It all happened at the same time. They both literally joined like right around the same time. And it was like they're vital pieces to like where we're heading.
Obviously on a smaller scale, but I don't know how much you know about what we do here. So it's not just a space that people come and buy memberships or rent or whatever, but what's happened more importantly, our relationships like that have started where you just, in general, you're like-minded. I think that's kind of what the universe part that brings you into the same space, right? And you get to know people, and you get to see what they're up to, and, oh, you're doing something really cool. I love it. I want to be a part of that, or maybe not, but it happens here all the time. There are so many people here now who are doing business together, who are, and even doing social things together as well. They've become friends, or they've become, you know, super connected. And it's always when you provide a space, I think, for like, it's collaboration, right? In whatever form it is, but being open to this idea that you don't know when and how something's going to happen, but if you're open to the collaborative feel experience,
100%. I mean, and I think that's how it is, you know, when meeting Sal, you know, I think just like picking up on his energy and having a similar, you know, cause he was there, and, you know, I don't think he really had somebody to just kind of come around and check on things in Sonoma County. So coming in, and then it was just like, boom, it was like, oh dude, this dude's awesome, you know, and what he's all about. And then, like you said, being kind of like-minded, and us, you know, me having the brand, the Good Time Bros, and just kind of, you know, we love, you know, connecting with people and making other people connect with each other and be like, oh, we have this friend that does this, like, we'll put you in touch, and just kind of like being open to it and being totally selfless, you know, like, you know, whatever you can do to, you know, help somebody out, or at least like, you know, I know from our position and stuff, and Sal's really just been, you know, has such a big heart, and, you know, even when we go down on the trip, maybe taking care of us a little bit more than he's supposed to, from, you know, but, you know, he's just that guy. And, you know, and like even seeing him, you know, even at Picazo in the kitchen bar, and just how he is, and, you know, really even getting more and more understanding of him. And then just kind of being that way myself, you know, to, you know, maybe a different degree, a certain degree, you know, whatever it may be, but, you know, it was just easy to click.
And we did it was funny. I was just thinking about it right now, retracing it. Like, we did the podcast prior to the trip too. So I was telling him kind of like, oh, this is what to expect. And so that's where it kind of happened. Cause once again, it was like, this is what we're about to do. This is what this is all about. And, you know, you get, like I said, it's like, at that point, you don't really know who I am, like in the sense of authenticity or truth. And then you go down there and you live it. And like, one of the biggest compliments that I received on that trip, on the actual trip, was we have a guy, his name's Ricky, and he's a bar director beverage director for two of the best LA restaurants right now in kind of downtown area. And they're the number one consumers of our product, like in the whole country. And, he was on the trip, and I remember it was the last meal we were having as a group, and it was up in the highlands of Jalisco at a carnitas place called Jaime's. And and we were ending it. And at that point, he was kind of tired of me like picking up the bill. He's like, get out of here. Like, we're going to pay for this.
That's right. Yeah.
And then and then I said, you know what? Thanks for coming and whatever. And he said, you know what? I came here a little bit like,